election of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Vaticiotis.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lunt. Here. Commissioner Eisner.
Here.
Commissioner Kulyas.
Here.
Commissioner Kulianis.
Here.
Okay, this evening's invocation will be given by Reverend Kurt Snare of St. Timothy's Lutheran Church. If we can all stand for that and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance immediately after.
The Lord be with you. Most heavenly Creator, God, Redeemer, Savior, and Sustainer, we give you thanks for this beautiful city that you've given us to live in. May you protect all who work and play and live in this town. We pray that you would guide us, Lord, in ways that bring glory to you. We pray that you would be with our leaders. Help us to realize that power is not something to be used for ourselves, but to follow your lead and to serve the people around us. So grant wisdom and counsel to those who are called to lead, that they might help us to be good stewards of all that you have given us. We ask this in the name of the Most High, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we go to public comments, I've got a couple of announcements. One, sitting to the right of me is Attorney Murchie. She is sitting in for Attorney Kardash, who's on the way from South County. And I'm not sure exactly when she'll be here, but it'll be a little later. And then also, we have an addendum with two additional items, one on special consent and also a resolution under ordinances and resolutions. We'll go through those when we get to it. Okay, let's go to public comments. Are there any public comments this evening?
Good evening. Anita Prost, 901 Bayshore Drive. I'd like to know, can the city, and I've asked this before, twice before, possibly put up no smoking signs at the library? Today I saw mothers taking their children in, and they were holding their hands because of smoke over their noses because of smoking the homeless are smoking heavy there. And they're sitting on the pond there smoking. And when you walk up there, cigarette smoke is offensive. And I don't think children or any of us should have to walk through that while they sit there and smoke and put their butts at the beginning and step on them to put them out at the beginning as you go into the doors or smoke on the grounds of our library. That should not be allowed. And if Down County, they can eliminate cigarettes at beaches, we can certainly eliminate cigarettes at our library. Thank you.
Okay, we can set up a no smoke zone, right? I mean, people can smoke over here, over there, but not in the main entrance, okay? City Manager LaCourse will take that up.
That's good. They can smoke the sun.
Good evening. Peter Delacus, 514 Ashland Avenue. Sometimes people inquire about how I pick a passage, and sometimes I look through a website that gives me some tips and stuff, and in reading through something else, I found this, and this seemed to be more appropriate. It's 2 Timothy's chapter 2, and I'm going to read 14 to 17, and then 22 to 26. Keep reminding them of these things. Warn them before God against quarreling about words. It is of no value and only ruins those who listen. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. Avoid godless chatter, because those who indulge in it will become more and more ungodly. Their teaching will spread like gangrene, and those who have wandered away from the truth. Flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know they produce quarrels, and the Lord's servant must not quarrel. Instead, he must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. Those who oppose him he must gently instruct, in the hope that God will grant them repentance, leading them to a knowledge of the truth, and that they will come to their senses and escape from the trap of the devil, who has taken them captive to do his will. So that was the reading. A couple of things. The ceremony last Saturday at the park for the veterans was real nice. And I'd gone to First Friday, but when I was leaving the ceremony, people had cleaned up, and I walked by the trash cans, and I see 3 big containers of, water containers in there and some other stuff. And so the environmentalist I am, I got the water containers out of them and recycle them, but then it makes me think, and the same thing I saw at First Friday, we don't have enough recycling containers out when we have events to encourage people to do more recycling. So any city event or in the special events application, maybe say, will recycling be provided? Yes or no? If not, we will contract for it and you can pay us the fee or reimburse the city, blah, 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 whatever. Lastly, when I was here before, and we honored the Native Americans, and Mr. Koulianis during staff comments asked for an update and to get some status reports. So again, I would implore this board to use any and all of their persuasion and influence to make sure that we find out as much as possible about this and find a way to not let this folly of a project affect us here in the Anclote River. If you look at what's going on in Pasco upriver to the headlands, where Moffett Center is building right off of the Sunshine Parkway and just by that new overpass road they put in up there. All that land is now being cut up by Lennar, D.R. Horton. All these companies are out there just chewing up the land. And I sent you something about how Pasco is looking about putting moratoriums on building because of the Live Local law, and it's how it's affecting us. So use your legislative influence to maybe stop some of that. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other public comments this evening from anyone in attendance? Mr. Maury, are there any remote access comments by Zoom or by telephone?
We do not have anyone in attendance at this time.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any emails to be read in on public comments. We do have one a little later. Let's go to the consent agenda. Are there any items that any commission would like to pull for asking any questions? Okay. Then hearing none, we're going to go to, I'm going to read these off. Item 1, satisfaction release of liens. Item 2, attorney's fees, Carlton Fields invoice 124595. Eunice Salzman Jensen, PA invoices 78741 through 45. Item 3, special events, St. Nicholas Vespers. Item 4, authorize execution of termination and transfer agreement, Duke Energy Park and Plug Program. Item 5, authorize execution of letter to Congress in appreciation of grant funding for a tree inventory program. Item 6, award file number 240035, single source purchase of Pierce 5 fire apparatus original equipment. Item 7, award file number 240008, sod pickup, deliver, and install. Yes, item 8, award file number 240013, single source purchase of chlorinator equipment. Item 9, increase file number 230020, paper products, paper towels, and toilet issue. Are there any public comments on any of these items? Mr. Maury, are there any remote access comments on anything on the consent agenda?
We do not have anyone in attendance at this time.
Okay, I'm going to ask for a motion from the commission and
I
a
make a
second.
motion, we accept the consent agenda.
So, second.
Okay. Are there any comments? The only, city manager, on item 5 on that authorized execution of letter to Congress, if we could put all the signatures for the commissioners on one page.
Yes, we'll do that and
Okay.
call all you to sign, yes.
All right. But otherwise, everything looks good. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Let's move on to the special consent agenda. Item 10, award file number 240032, purchase of vehicles. City Manager LaCourse.
Yes, Janina, do you want to come up and handle this item, please?
No.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Good evening, Janina Lewis, Procurement Services Director. Yes, what you have before you is the FY '24. This is the citywide vehicle buy. We do not have the police vehicles at this time. They will be coming in the future. What we have before you is the budgeted amounts that you saw in the previous, the workshops for each department. And then I'll turn that over for any questions that you may have.
Okay, let me go to the public. Are there any questions from the public concerning vehicle purchases? Mr. Maury, are there any remote access comments concerning vehicle purchases? That would be agenda item 10.
We do not have anyone in attendance at this time.
Okay, may I have a motion and a second, then we'll go to questions and comments by the
So
commission.
moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner comments, questions? Anything from any of you?
I'm just glad to see that we're working hybrids into the system. I wish it could be full electric, but we're not quite there yet, but at least some hybrids are great. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Eisner.
Thank you. I also am glad to see that we're touching base with it. I did have a quick question to ask you. The Ford Mavericks are going to be brought home, or they're going to stay on city premise? How is that going to work?
The ones in this order are going to be city property vehicles. So the meter reader, he will park it in the evening, so it's only here on the city property.
And we presently have enough charging stations?
Well, these particular hybrids do not require charging stations the way they work, but that is on my to-do list for the infrastructure. We currently only have 3 chargers here at City Hall, and then we have a couple more around the city at certain buildings, but that does need to be looked at before we start to make the full push to hybrid or electric.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, anything else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Item 11, award file number 240027, job order contracting services, City Manager LaCourse.
Yep, Janina, has this item also?
This particular contract we brought to you last year as kind of a method of having other means to do smaller, minor construction projects. This is just one more tool for procurements to be able to kind of get tasks done quicker. This is a firm fixed price construction contract. They use a catalog that they do their pricing from. This particular contract, last year we used the Sourcewell. This year we are piggybacking off the Pinellas County job order services contract. And it's actually the same contractors that we have been using from the Sourcewell because we are in that region. So with that, I will turn it over for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any public comments concerning this item? This is a general contract for a variety of different services. This one includes construction services. Are there any public comments concerning this item? Mr. Maury, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to talk on this item, please raise your hand to be allowed in. We do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve, and then we'll go to questions and comments from the commission.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner comments and questions, anything from anyone?
I just think it's a great idea, you know, and I'm glad to see that we're doing this. It'll get a lot more done, that doesn't have to come before us.
Okay. Let's see, manager, do you want to add anything? Do you have anything?
No, again, Janina's done a good job bringing it to us, and believe me, Janina is monitoring it. So it's worked out good in the limited scope that it was used the first year. So I think it's a great thing for us and projects and getting them done. And I'm very comfortable with Janina watching over and having control of this, though.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lewis. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Item 12, discussion, direction, funding for purchase of Roosevelt Boulevard property. City Manager LaCouris.
Yes, I'll have Ron start walking up. Obviously, the referendum passed for the property. So what we're bringing you this meeting, after much review by our finance director, our recommended option of funding it. Obviously, if you approve this option, will we bring back a resolution at the next meeting because it has to be done by resolution. And Ron will explain all that to you now and give you his thoughts of the best way to do this and discuss it with you and see if we get your agreement.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Ron Herring, Finance Director. Back when the land item came up for the $1.8 million, we were looking at the finances and for the options, and we came up with $900,000 coming from the ARPA money. We have about $600,000 left. The balance of $300,000 would come from the interest earnings we've earned through fiscal year 2023. The balance was going to come from the penny fund, but that would require a loan from the hospital fund. I don't know if you know, that's the $3 million lease money we've got in the hospital fund to be paid back over 3 years at $300,000 per year. But if we do the hospital fund loan, we need to do a resolution to approve of the loan, which we would bring back to the board on December 5th, 2023. So with that, I'll answer any questions you got.
Okay, let me go to public comments. Are there any public comments on this item? This concerns the purchase of the Roosevelt property that was the subject of the recent referendum, and it passed 1.8 acres. Mr. Moore, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to talk on this item, please raise your hand to be allowed in. We do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, may I have a motion? You want the commission to authorize the approach this evening, or do you want anything from the commission?
Yes, to authorize the approach, and we'll bring back the resolution to your next meeting to finalize.
Could I have a motion to authorize the approach as described by Mr. Herring, and in a second, please?
So moved.
Okay, let's go to commissioner comments and questions. Commissioner Kulianis, you have your lights on.
Ron, can you, can you?
I didn't hear a second.
Second, but second.
I thought there was a second. Did anybody give a second?
I just said.
You just second, okay. Commissioner Kulianis seconded it, okay.
Can you explain what the hospital fund money is accumulated for?
Well, yes. Currently, the hospital pays a lease of $300,000 a year annually. Back when they were redoing the lease, for the period of 2040, in the part of the agreement, for 2041 through 2070, the hospital foundation prepaid $3 million for those years from 2041 to 2070. And the intent is, what we had planned for, we would take that money, the $3 million, it earns interest, and by 2041, we would have the same $300,000 a year to fund the general fund annually.
To make up for the...
Right, because we're getting $300,000 a year currently from the hospital annually.
And we spent that $3 million that they gave us early?
Well, we haven't spent it yet. The $3 million?
No, you said they prepaid $3 million.
They paid the $3 million of January 2019.
But this is part of the $3 million.
Pardon me?
So this is part of the $3 million?
The $900,000?
Right.
Yes, we would be taking a loan of $900,000 out of the $3 million.
And how much and when was that given?
January of 2019 is when we received it.
And so how much has that grown?
Right now, the interest earnings haven't been that great. They've gotten better now, but we're got about $3,160,000.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
there any other comments, questions from commissioners? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes.
Just to add to that, in talking with Mr. Salzman, and he's been in contact with the attorney, we are looking at around the 27th or 28th of December on closing on that property. That's why we're getting this out of the way now, and hopefully before the end of the year, the closing and the property will be ours.
That sounds good. Thank you very much. We've had a vote on this, so we'll go to item 13. Accept special counsel's report and findings. Yeah, hang on a second, there's a little backup in the agenda of what this is for. At the meeting, we had asked, we stated the special session for the special counsel investigation report. We said that we would accept the results at the end. Mr. Schwartz was expecting that. That was overlooked, and we're picking up that item tonight to do so. And so let me go to public comments, if there's any public comments on this item.
Anita Prose, 901 Bayshore Drive. I was disappointed last week when y'all didn't accept it. It needs to be accepted because we spent taxpayers' money. It proved that nothing was done illegally. It proves that everything was honest. So therefore, in a way, it was well spent because the accusations that have been made are moot. And because we spent that money and it was presented to the city, the commission needs to accept it. The people that did not want to come before this panel to answer questions, they didn't have to, or they had nothing to say. So the time has come to say, we need to accept it. We spent taxpayers' money and it proved nothing except the innocence of those that have been accused. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other public comments?
Ms. Annie Samarkis has kindly donated 2 minutes of her time. So, I agree with former Mayor Anita Protas. This does need to be accepted. Although I'm curious if you can accept it with conditions. I would ask that of your legal counsel. Now, I want to go through some of the things that I know I tried to go over this and I'd read it online, and having it in hand is a little bit different, but a couple of things I had questions about, and about how you got to realize these are attorneys framing this in attorney speak. Sometimes there's words in there that have other meanings or other things. So on page 4, it says, after talking about background facts, Walmart property, Walmart offered the property for sale. Concerned city and other local environmental activists brought various state funding and grant options to the city, but none of these options provided viable funding necessary for the city to make an offer on the property. Well, that's somewhat true, but we were up here for years telling the city how they could apply for Florida Community Trust grants, so it really wasn't that they didn't have options to how to fund it. They didn't have an impetus from that board. And you'll see through the whole report, it talks about this pro-development board. And there's another section that I want to go to, page 7, where it talks about the Morgan Group's pre-application interaction with city staff. Morgan Group sought feedback on the development options that would move the project forward quickly and with minimal expense. We expect that. Now going to the background of 2019 ordinances, and this is the part that I really have the bigger problems with. On page 8, September of 2018, Morgan Group and Agents of City Planning. The then BOC was generally pro-development in their vision for the city, and the city manager and then planning director were mindful of projects and code changes that would help achieve smart growth and encourage developers to consider Tarpon Springs for their development projects. Under this guidance, the then planning director identified potential solutions to encourage developers to bring complex projects. Smart growth, guidance, and yet when you look at the scope of the services at the beginning, it's more about communication interplay between city and Morgan Group, and it really, where's the focus on the influence that the city staff is getting from this pro-development group? And what's their definition of smart growth? What's their definition of smart growth? Now, here's the curious stuff. They proposed modifying the ordinances, one for conditional use, one for development agreement, and there was a problem with the conditional use ordinance. And why was that? Because it was advertised for a January 28th meeting, and on January 25th, Ed Armstrong sends them revised language, and that's in here too. And my question at that point, they sent it to the attorney, and the attorney says, well, yeah, you would need to re-advertise. But my thing is, in my thought head process, is why didn't they just proceed with the ordinance they already had to the P&Z board and let Morgan Group come and present their alternative and debate it? Why did city staff jump on that right away and say, hey, yeah, that's a good plan. I like that better than what we're proposing? Questions. Page 14, findings, where it says inappropriate pressure on staff. Here's the legal stuff. We found no evidence of outsized influence on city staff. Outsized, what's outsized? Just a little bit, but not a lot? How much is little, how much is a lot? Then on page 15, the Ancla Harbor project was one of the largest, most complex projects in the history of Tarpon Springs. Witnesses denied that any LDC amendments were made solely to benefit the Morgan Group. My question is, would they have been doing these amendments if Morgan Group hadn't been coming and putting this in front of them? Was that on the policy that was being directed? I don't remember that being directed, but as it states many times in here, pro-development group. Page 16, per witnesses, the Morgan Group was most interested in pursuing development options that would move the project forward quickly with minimal expense. The submission of a development application triggers a TRC, which is the first advertised public meeting for a development project. So in a way, all this is happening during that, time, let's see, 19? That was still before COVID. Can't use COVID as the excuse that we weren't hearing about it. All right, so let's move on. Page 19, I covered that, why she didn't stand for, okay. Oh, and on page 20, here's the stuff. Here's some good stuff. I got a few seconds left. Director noted, when at the P&Z meeting, when she was asked, the director noted 2 previously approved projects that had required additional time. She says she also noted a current applicant that was likely facing a period of more than 5 years to develop the project. And then later it says here, when asked why Morgan Group was not disclosed, witness explained that the Morgan Group was not an applicant. So if she knew at the earlier, it says here, current applicant faced 5 years, because that was the only one, because I watched that meeting. If you go, one of the applicants she refers to is the 2 houses that were built on Orange Street that had to go through the Heritage Preservation Board. Another thing was about a storage unit on 19 that took a little bit longer to take. None of those are anything related to the biggest project that ever came to Tarpon Springs. There are a couple other things issue. I understand my time is up. I do highlight that the recommendations offered are a good step. But sometimes I wonder, I didn't get access to all the emails when they originally popped. It didn't download. Commissioner Eisner read an email that I had never seen before. I don't know. I know we want to put it behind us, but to me, there's still some questions to be asked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments of anyone in attendance here? Mr. Morey, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to talk on this item, please raise your hand to be allowed in. We do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, Ms. Jacobs, do we have any emails?
Yes. This is from Jacob Carr. Good evening, Board. Tarpon Springs is a great city full of beautiful history, great businesses, large and small, and passionate residents. Additionally, the staff within the city is hardworking and passionate about seeing the city succeed across all the departments. It was great news to see, as expected, that there wasn't any findings of corruption in the $160,000 report presented to the BOC around the Anclote Harbor's application process. Although there has been a lot of propaganda being spread from a small circle, including current board members and across social media. The missed opportunity with $160,000 could have been used for many great projects around the city in recreation, water line replacements, new sidewalks, land preservation, or road resurfacing. Mayor, the residents expect the elected officials to serve with integrity and respect. Making up assumptions, accusing people of corruption when there is no proof of stirring up the residents with partial truths and falsehoods is not acceptable, nor is it honorable in your current positions. You have a great opportunity to do great things for the residents and the city that can impact the city for many years. Please focus your time on being productive instead of trying to find or make up stories of corruption. I am sorry that the city staff and residents have had to endure this drama over the past couple of years, and hopefully the board can move forward from this and work on productive items into 2024. Happy Thanksgiving to all.
Let's go, well, we're going to have a motion.
I make a motion, we accept the special counsel's report and findings.
Hey,
Second.
okay, okay. Let me start off with the comments. First of all, I think the question is whether there was any activities that rose to the level of any legal wrongdoing. And the special counsel, Mr. Schwartz, was very clear, and that, oh, good evening, Ms. Kardash, that he didn't see anything at all, or else he would have reported it. So that's very clear on that matter. Secondly, from my perspective, it's real easy to say that, you know, we shouldn't have spent $160,000. But I can tell you this community was very well split, as if not more so, thinking that there was something wrong and they wanted answers. So I think that the report achieved that. And if I was asked to spend that amount of money again to bring some closure to this matter, at least partial closure to the extent that the bounds of the special study, I would do it again. I think the residents had expected that, so I don't think there's going to be any criticism from that, except from a couple. And the other part that I wanted to say was that I would hope by some people there would be some sense of relief that the special counsel did not find anything wrong. I mean, you know, one of the objectives was to see if there was anything that was going to cause the item to be brought, the project to be brought back to the commission. That was not the case. Also, we had an expectation of policies that would come out of it, and Mr. Schwartz provided 5 of those. But other than that, I think that there, you know, given the extent of the study, I think that I think there should be some relief on many people that this did not find any wrongdoing from a legal perspective. Lastly, and I sent a memorandum to the commission asking for this agenda item, but there's a couple of things that, and I did speak to Mr. Schwartz before the meeting concerning the acceptance of the results, and in the memorandum that I sent to the city manager, I did put some sample language for a motion, and he did, in his memorandum, state what the issue was with this item, and then in the narrative, he did state pretty much what I had said. But I think we need to be, from the standpoint, and Mr. Kulianis, or Commissioner Kulianis, could you read your motion again, please?
The motion to accept the special counsel's reports and findings.
Okay. If I could ask for some consideration to, who seconded it? Commissioner Eisner, did you second? Vice Mayor Long. If I could ask for some consideration to amend your motion to accept the Carlton Field Special Counsel Investigation Report dated November 1st, 2023, and its findings based on the available information and interviews, and by this motion deems Carlton Field's tasking as special counsel as described in Resolution 2023-09 complete, and approval of this motion is to be made retroactive to November 8th, 2023. And
Yes.
the November 8th is the date of our special counsel meeting.
Yes, I'll accept those.
Okay. Vice Mayor? No.
Second.
Okay. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to, and I'm glad you're here, Ms. Kardash, your timing is impeccable. The one revelation that came out of that I think, I know we've got the 5 policy items, and I think from my perspective, there was a 6th, and I think that there's some immediacy to that in the sense that we had learned out of the report that the former city attorney's contract, Trask Dagnall, did not cover all legal matters. At least that was what with the representation was made. And so, and this had to do with the ordinances, the 2019 ordinances. And I asked Mr. Salzman after the meeting whether our current contract did, and he thought it did. So I know your current council's, your anniversary is coming up, I think, in the beginning of the first of the year, right? Pretty close to it?
Yes, I believe my contract was on a 3-year cycle. But at any time, if you wanted to amend it, I would certainly be open to whatever amendments you were looking for, especially to cover matters like this.
I don't know whether I want to amend it.
Okay.
The only thing I'm going to ask is if you, and this doesn't need to be a motion, this is just asking, I hope I would have some concurrence by the commission. If there's any objection, please make that known, that Ms. Kardash and Mr. Salzman review their contract and identify any areas that may not be covered by their contract and let us know, and then maybe some recommendations on what we can do to provide that coverage in either an amendment or something else. I know Ms. Jackson is our personnel attorney. Maybe those matters are excluded, and we need to be a little more specific in that. Maybe there's something else as well.
I do know that the contracts that I had submitted were much more broad and inclusive than what you previously had. And they not only covered the contract for services themselves, but also included all the materials that were submitted as part of our bid packets. And so all the matters that were outlined and discussed in the bid packets, as well as the more routine matters, are all deemed to be included as part of the contract documents.
My chief concern is that I think the idea was that if an item was, if a legal matter was not referred to the attorney, then in this particular case that we had in the special counsel, the contract didn't cover it, I guess, in that particular case. And so I think this commission has always wanted to be somewhat proactive, and I've always invited you, if you see something that we're getting out of line or something's going off on something that's going to perhaps create some harm for the city, you need to speak up, so that without being invited to, I think that's the kind of, participation that we would like to see, rather than waiting to be asked a question and then providing a response. Does any commissioner disagree with that approach? No, okay. So if we could get something back, I think that the meeting is, our meeting is January 9th is our first commission meeting. So that should give you some time with you and Mr. Salzman to get together. If you need more time, let us know, but certainly prior to the, your contract anniversary.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Other commissioner comments, questions? Commissioner Kuyas?
I would ask this board if moving forward in the future, as we saw the interaction that was happening, which, you know, it came out to be fine, that when ordinances or you know, land use development codes are being presented or read, that all the material leading up to it is brought into the backup, including all email interaction. I think, this commission deserves a right to have that, all commissioners and the residents too as well. So that way we can see ordinances, how they develop, how they evolve, and just get some more transparency. So.
I concur with Commissioner Kulis. We need that kind of information when those items are brought forward to us. I still have some concerns about the fact that the report said that the information supporting the two ordinances that under discussion were never presented to City Council, when indeed they were presented to Council at the P&Z board, which is, as you mentioned before, is part of the City Attorney Office, but I'm not going to sit here and argue
I
that.
understand. That's part of why I'm asking Ms. Kardash and Mr. Salzman.
I understand, and it's well due.
At this end, to the right, Commissioner Eisner.
I agree with everything I've just heard. In addition, I'm glad that we instituted any changes that come to our board from the time it leaves the Planning and Zoning to hit our board. It goes back to the Planning and Zoning Board. That's a very important thing as well, which I'm not so sure that was, done on the prior situation. So, but otherwise, I kind of agree. Transparency is utmost.
Commissioner Koulianis.
I agree with the, I was on the Planning and Zoning, and there were materials brought later to the Board of Commissioners and did not come back to us. I'm not sure what, that would have done or what difference that would have made, but yeah, for sure, that probably should have gotten kicked back to us. Overall, I'm pleased with the report. It shines a nice light on our staff. It's accepting the report isn't saying that you agree with everything in the report. It doesn't mean that you think the report is completely conclusive or whether you think there's incompleteness. We're just accepting it to put it in our record. And I think that they did a good job of noting the things that he made findings on, and then noting what he didn't do. So I think they did an excellent job. Obviously, we picked, I wasn't on the board when you guys picked Carlton Fields, but I think you made a good choice, and they're, a highly respected firm, and I think that has a lot of weight with the report and why it is a good document. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
We are planning, I think, was it someone, I think Mr. Salzman suggested a workshop on those 5 recommendations of policy changes and things, or we need to figure that out, but that would be, I'm hoping we get to that early next year on that, and that should give Ms. Vincent some time, because I know she's going to be instrumental in you and all of that.
Yeah, she's already looking at that, yes.
Right, and by the way, the report did not produce nothing. We did get 5 excellent motions, and if they didn't feel something could be done better, Carlton Fields didn't feel something could be done better, they wouldn't have put those 5 motions in there. So, and then I think some other things have come forward to be a little more specific about that, about communication with the commission on any pending large projects and things. So we'll pick that up. I think like everybody, this is finished with how the motion is written, and I think we need to move forward from here, and hopefully we'll get to this and later in the beginning next year, and then get some other important things done as well. So if there's no further comments, roll call, please.
Commissioner Koulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Okay, the next item is discussion and direction of Resolution 2023-38, authorizing eminent domain. City Manager LaCourse.
Yes, this was an item on the agenda, and it was deferred to be talked about again after the referendum item. It was obvious at that meeting that there was more than one Board of Commissioners who was concerned about this. So what I wanted to do before we brought the resolution back was to have an agenda item, discuss the direction, seeing if we even gonna want to go forward with the resolution this time, or what we want to do. We can clear up some of the doubt that was on the board there, and then if it is to go forward, we can put that resolution on the next meeting. If it's not to go forward or to look at it at a later time, then we can just move forward with the item and hold it. So we're bringing it back to you for discussion and a continuation on the items. Obviously, the referendum passed, so if that's changed any views, we discuss them tonight, get it set, and then give us the direction on whether to bring back the resolution or not.
Okay. Sir, anything, no other staff comments or anything?
No.
Okay. Ms. Kardash, from a legal perspective, did you want to offer anything, or?
The only thing that I will offer is that eminent domain proceedings tend to be very lengthy. And there are specialized counsel that you can hire that do quite a bit of eminent domain. They're also very expensive because you pay attorney's fees, and usually it comes down to being a battle of the experts, where you have one appraiser arguing against another appraiser, and at the end of the day, the city will end up bearing the cost of both.
Okay, thank you. Public comments, are there any public comments on this item?
Anita Protas, 901 Bayshore Drive. Of course, we know this is in front of us because of the Sagonis property. And through the years, the Sagonis family lent it, in so many words, to the city down there. And I'd like to know, were the property owners notified that this was going to be discussed tonight, or was their attorney notified? And I was told they didn't know how to get in touch with them. Well, that's not true, because the city manager has spoken to the property owners and to their attorneys. The city has spoken with them. Were they notified about this tonight? Yes or no?
I have no idea, city manager, of course.
Okay. As you know, this is not a question point in time. I don't know if Mr. Salzman did or not. They knew it was on the agenda for the last meeting. They knew it got deferred. And again, this is an action to see if we're going forward with the resolution again. So I can't tell you if remember, this is in the hands of our attorney now, not with me or anybody else. This is in the hands of the two attorneys. So I can't answer what the dealings of the two attorneys and where they are in this process.
Well, to be discussed, I think the property owners should be here, or their attorneys, and not discussed without them knowing it. This is America. We have rights, and that is valuable property. Instead of trying to get it for something that isn't as valuable as what you're offering them, because there's no other piece down there like that. And if you buy property down there, as our mayor did, you know what each lot costs. So that is expensive property. Don't cheat them out of it. Let's bring them up here, let them hear what you're saying, and let's have it all laid out properly and legally. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Yes, there is.
Pierre Lax, 514 Ashland Avenue. One thing from the election, you see that your citizens support you preserving land. We don't have that much of it left, and what we do, they want you to take a part in preserving it. But they also don't want you taking land, and as Ms. Kardash has advised you, you would be going down a lengthy, expensive path. Probably spend more money than if you just offered them all that money up front, because now they know what the market maybe is. I don't know. You can, but my advice would be make a motion to accept it and then vote it down. You're done with it. Let's see what time brings you. In the meantime, take any of that money that you would be using in that to focus on getting some nice design plans. Talk to Eddie, talk to maybe a couple other, put an RFP out for architectural proposals of, and start using that money for what we talked about, because you convinced the people it was gonna be for events, parking, green space, all those things, and that's what they're gonna wanna expect. So instead of the money on an eminent domain, use that to start the process of getting a nice design. Once you get maybe 2 or 3 architects that have put forward proposals, you have a workshop, let everybody come and take a look. Hey, what you like, what you like? And then more of that transparent process, but that's much better than trying to take that. And then once the people who own that property see what's going on in that area and how that affects their property, maybe that will enlighten them to do something that coexists with what's forming down there. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments of anyone in attendance? Mr. Moore, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to talk on this item, please raise your hand to be allowed in. We do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the only other thing I would like to add, just so everybody is aware, is that with eminent domain, it doesn't mean that the taking is where you get the property for free. You still pay fair market value for the property. And sometimes that's a misconception. So I do want the commission and the public to understand that there still is an exchange for value in this item.
Let me just add a few things, and we'll go from that. And I'll just pick up from Ms. Kardash, City Manager LaCour. Well, first of all, for the record, I didn't ask for this item to be brought forward, but I'm glad it did, and I would have if the City Manager brought it forward to just kind of confirm what was discussed the other time this matter came forward. So that's good. The other thing I wanted to ask you, in our discussions with the owners, I don't want to get too much into that, but we do have a policy of offering 125% of the appraised value. And you want to go ahead and talk about that?
Yes, and that was the 200,000 we'd offer them. But we also told them that we'd be willing to listen to a counteroffer. A $1.8 million, what we paid for all that property from them, is not a reasonable counteroffer, and that's where we ended up in the process. Mm-hmm. So it's not a thing, well, you tried to get them for 200 and, could offer them a few. I mean, it was a difference of 200,000 and 1.8 million. That fluctuated among that time, but we had plenty, and this has been going on with me for over 6, is probably 8 years of back and forth with this family to kind of get a reasonable aspect. From them, it's gone anywhere from 2 million to 600,000, and the 600,000 was pulled back, and we're back to 1.8. This is not a process that's just been going, and it was a process I was directed by the board to keep on. I've kept on it, and it's just got to the point where it was finally brought forward to this board is 200,000, 1.8 million, we're at a standstill. We've offered, there's been a new attorney involved. We thought we could make some headway with the new attorney that we didn't make with the previous attorney. Of course, the attorney's just carrying out the wills of the client. We couldn't make that, so that's why we brought it to you originally, because after 6, 7, 8 years, that's where we ended up, 200,000 to 1.8 million. And that's why we ended up for the board to make a decision whether to continue or have me go and negotiate things elsewhere.
The point was the 125%. The 25% represents fees that would have gone to an attorney, so we might as well just provide those to the property owner. And I think in the case of the library and also Live Oak, that was the policy back then, and many people accepted that, others held out. In addition, Ms. Vincent, our planning director, sent you an email with a packet of information that she had provided some time ago. And I just, in looking through that, she didn't really discuss anything about the comprehensive plan and the importance of parks. So I just want to just I provided just, I think it was a couple of sheets on your desk concerning this property and also the comp plan. Let me just quickly make my comments on those. I basically said that Cocores Park, in addition to Ms. Vinson's historical context, is the only piece of property that had been historically used for a park in Greektown. And so this one map in the front is the Greektown, and you can see there isn't any other park in that location. And I know this was an issue way back in 2020, and there was even what'd you call it, where signatures were collected to support the purchase of that property. So a lot of people would, you know, it's like the city manager said, there's been some expectation. It was used as a park. It's not being allowed to be used now, and there's always been some expectation this would be returned to the public. The next sheet of paper, next page was the table RO-10, which is out of our recreational element of our comp plan. And just to show you that these are the level of standards for mini parks. Right now, we have a total of 7.8 acres, and in 2005, the need was 10.4, 2015, 11.6, and 2030, the expectation of parcels would be 13 acre deficit. You see in our neighborhood parks and community parks, we really don't have any deficit. The next page was, you know, there's some mention about infrastructure. I want to be absolutely clear. Parks and are considered recreation infrastructure. And sometimes they take a back seat to a lot of other things like roads and utilities and things like that. But then there's just this little excerpt that I got from the Parks and Recreation Association that NARS, the National Parks and Recreation Association, that basically states what the importance of parks came about during COVID, and it just confirms what everybody had known. And then also the last page is a comp plan out of the recreational element. And if you look at the one bold title, Create New Recreation Opportunities, Policy 1.2.3, locate future facilities to provide service to all geographic portions of the city, taking into consideration private recreation facilities, which in the Sponge Docks, there isn't any there at all. And this gives you the mini parks are 0.8 acres per 1,000 persons. That's the way most of our level of service standards are determined, by those numbers that are recognized nationally. So that's all I wanted to say, that there is a need for this park down there. It's been a recognized need, or else this hasn't been this pursuit of trying to purchase it over the years. I think Ms. Vinson's made a clear case of what the value is. I think Ms. Kardash has also pointed out that, you know, if we get into this thing and the judge determines it's 400,000, then it's 400,000. I mean, it's as simple as that. If it's 500,000, it's 500,000. But that's what the judge's role is in these eminent domain proceedings, is to determine what, in his mind, based on the arguments or the presentations of experts, what the fair value is. So it's not just taking the property and just and not paying what is appropriate for it. Let me go to other, the lights are on. Commissioner Eisner, you have your light on.
I do. So here's my King Solomon words of wisdom on this one. I'm okay with an eminent domain when there is a true city need that it cannot be replaced. And that's, you know, for infrastructure, I understand. I just don't know if on this particular item, do I have the wherewithal to want to take somebody's property away against their will. I would like to not have us be that decision-making board. I would much prefer to see the people that are in that vicinity that would be utilizing the park, the facility, be coming before us and voting on it, and, you know, and supporting that decision. I know I won't be using the park, and I doubt anybody up here would be using the park. Do people have the right to hold their property regardless of whether it makes sense to anybody else? They do. And I wouldn't want somebody to say that they want to take my house or my property because they want to do whatever. When it benefits the entire city, and it's really a need where we just can't do anything else, I understand. With this particular situation, I don't 100% see that need. Yes, we have the need for a park possibly, but without having to force the owner in an eminent domain, I just don't see that that is my way to go on this one, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Kulyas.
I don't think we've exhausted all options, and what I mean by that is we see with the future land use map and the property as it sits on this R60, and trying to avoid this potential litigation that could go on for who knows how long that we would end up paying for. And as you mentioned, Mayor, it may come back that this property is worth $400,000. I'd like to see if we're able to appraise the property as if you can build on it, an R60, as if you can build on it as a mixed-use property, and then potentially go back to these property owners and then offer them an amount that the property would be worth under that value. Now, we're trying to make it a park, but we want to work with this property owner to try to buy the property at a price that they're willing to sell it. And so I don't want to see, I mean, we saw what happened at that big development that we just approved and with the special report. And you see that if we let this linger, and you guys see how the policies are written from our code, and they basically talk about based upon balancing of the following criteria as determined to be applicable and significant to subject amendment, and that's under policy 3.3.1, and under policy 3.3.2, it says, you know, a density increase within the CHHA for mixed-use projects may be considered subject to meeting one of the following criteria identified below. Such mixed-use projects may only allow residential above the ground floor. So we've seen backup material about not being able to build into the coastal high hazard, but we see there's some weight and balancing information that things could change. And it really comes down to the board that's up here when doing these weighing and balancing decisions. And at the time that maybe that property owner could try to do a future land use change. And so I think we need to be proactive in trying to offer them an amount that makes sense as if the property was buildable on. Because based off the appraisal that we got as a city, I can understand why the owner's hesitant to want to give it up. And so I'd like for us to, and when you see that property's, it's in an enclave of all medium density around the property under the land use map. And the eminent domain can be expensive to the point where it may cost us several $100,000 that we could have just initially offered. We saw from that referendum, the voters seem to support buying some property. So maybe it might be a decision for them to make. And I just don't want to see a situation where 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, there's a different board up here, the climate's changed towards what projects or you know, what land use is allowed, and then we run into a higher density situation because it's happened before, it can happen again. We see under this policy stuff, it's really about balancing and weighing. So let's try to go back to this property owner and get an appraisal on the property in which it would be buildable on, or at least that value could go up to the point to, maybe we could get them to accept it, because we know what we want to do with it. And I think the value is only going to go up on the property the longer we wait, whether it's designated as a park or nothing else. So I'd like to take that approach first and see where we can go from there.
Vice Mayor Lund.
Okay, so I'm going to actually take a different look at this from the comprehensive plan and the resistance that we might see if we move forward with this action. Pursuant to section 163.3177, section 6F, this is the Florida statutes. The following represents the property rights, objectives, and policies of the city of Tarpon Springs. So this is our filed comprehensive plan with the state, which says, and I'm not going to read the whole section for you, Goal 1, the city shall ensure that regulatory and land use decisions are based on the public safety, health, and welfare of the residents, institutions, and businesses of the city as a whole. The goals, objectives, and policies of this comprehensive plan should minimize the threats to health, safety, and welfare posed by hazards, nuisances, incompatible land uses, and environmental degradation. And it goes on into another thing, but Objective 1.1 of our comprehensive plan, under Policy 1.1.1 and Policy 1.1.2, and allow me to paraphrase so I don't completely bore everybody to death, but Policy 1.1.2 says, consideration of property rights shall also include ensuring city regulatory and land use decisions are based primarily on the public safety, health, and welfare of the residents, institutions, and businesses of the city as a whole, and on the goals, objectives, and policies of this comprehensive plan. Policy 1.1, which prefaces this, says, the right of a property owner to physically possess and control his or her interest in the property, including easements, leases, or mineral rights, to use, maintain, develop, and improve his or her property for their own personal use or for the use of any other person subject to state law and local ordinances, the right of a property owner to privacy and to exclude others from property to protect the owner's possession of property, and most importantly, the right of the property owner to dispose of his or her property through sale or gift, period. So this is what we're up against if we go through this. If I was a lawyer on the other side, we would be sitting in a courthouse for a very, very long time before I allowed this to proceed.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Koulianis.
You know, I expressed myself at the last time this was brought up that I have a fundamental issue with the use of eminent domain. I think eminent domain, I know what it's like. I own property that past boards were hovering over and threatening eminent domain. It's a lot of power, and we have a lot of power up here, but that's powers to be used judiciously. And just like the Vice Mayor just read, this has to have to me, now I wasn't on the board when Live Oak went through or the library. Now I can see those having, especially with Live Oak having, being of benefit for commerce of our town and having a collective overall, and you used the words in what you just read, Vice Mayor, you said all to the whole, as a whole, the citizens as a whole. Okay, this is a park in a small part of town. I got just as much long-term connection with Greektown as anybody. My family, my father was born there. I have a big affinity for that area. But these people own their property. If they don't want to sell, I don't think we should be using the power of eminent domain. I don't care if we give them 125% of value, or we give them 325% of value. They don't want to sell, they don't want to sell. Now, I agree with Commissioner Kulyas. These people gave us their property for 30 years, and we got to use that park, but it was always their property. Now, they lend it to the city for 30 years. And during that time, and I checked with Renee Vincent, during that time, it got changed to a public recreation zoning on the property. So rather than having the zoning that it could have had at like any other lot down there, either mixed use or multifamily or residential. It's a huge piece. It could have been divided into 3 lots for homes to be built on. So, you know, the fact that we took advantage, and obviously they were gracious enough to lease that property to us, to have it as a park for 30 years is beautiful. But that's up, it's their property. Now we should, I agree with, again, Commissioner Kulyas, we go back, have it appraised at its best use value, and then approach them then, saying, okay, we're gonna give you best use. We're not gonna give you public recreation value because we did that to you. They were gracious, and now we're gonna kick them in the teeth by saying it's only worth $150,000 because it can only be used for that, and who the heck's gonna buy it? You know, who's gonna buy a piece of property in the public marketplace just to put a park? Okay, so I won't vote for eminent domain tonight. I won't vote to move this forward, but I would like to recommend that the city manager look at getting appraisals at best use value, and then approaching them and trying to negotiate from there. So, thank you.
I think tonight the city manager was asking whether you just wanted to move forward with a resolution, and I think that one logical recommendation or one motion would be to table this matter. And I'm not going to support, there's a word I'd like to use, but not public, basically modifying appraisal approaches to try and fit a price to a piece of property. I think that sets a dangerous precedent for that. And I know these are MAI appraisals. You're not going to get an MAI appraisal like that, telling an appraiser they've already appraised it at the best and highest use based on what the land development code says. If some other issue came up where we were wanting to purchase land and a guy says, well, I know I could build 300 apartments on this thing where he could build 5 houses, and then there's some commission that feels that, well, maybe we should appraise it at 300 apartments because it was done for this other property. I'm not going to support that. I mean, you can make the motion and second it, but I'm not going to support that. I think tonight the city manager was just looking for some direction on what to do with this specific thing because we had brought it up. I think Commissioner Kulyas says, let's wait until after the election referendum. The referendum's over. I don't have a problem with continuing. The reason I brought the information forward was just to make sure everybody was clear that there wasn't any, I mean, there was a basis for this as a park, that's all. I mean, I wasn't trying to change the commission's mind on this thing other than just trying to get what the city manager wanted as far as direction. So is there a motion, any kind of a motion on this?
I still have a point to discuss.
Pardon me?
You know, we've seen the background on this. We know that we leased the property for 30 years, and during that time, somehow somebody took our leased use of that, the use that we had under lease as the actual regulation for the land development code and the future land use map for that particular property. I personally believe that that's an error. It wasn't an error on our part, it was an error on whoever did the future land use map and the county land map. That was an error on their part by taking a current use, which was a leased use, and then denigrating the other uses that had been originally assigned to the property. So I don't know, for me, that's another reason never to want to approve this, as far as an eminent domain procedure.
So I think everyone has brought up some excellent points that maybe could be brought back forward for the future on this piece of property. But I think that there needs to be some discussion with the city manager. I think there needs to be some discussion with Ms. Vincent. This changing land use maps isn't just the city waving its arm and changing the land use map. Ms. Vincent made it clear, this isn't a coastal high hazard area. Over 30 years, those regulations have changed to what they are now. And the rule is no matter what your land was 30 years ago, the rule is and you can ask Ms. Vincent this, the rule is that you're subject to whatever your comprehensive plan is the day that your approval comes in, not what it was 30 years ago. So that was in a memorandum as far as what the hoops you'd have to go through to start changing these things. But maybe it can be done. But I don't think we should give direction that be done, or maybe you want to give direction for the city manager to look into that, but I'm not sure I understand what the logic is on all of that. But anyway, city manager, you want to help me out a little bit on what you're looking for?
I just want to make a note, back whenever it was recently, it was both of us getting an appraisal. City get an appraisal and them to get an appraisal to do. We know they got an appraisal because they took the one, they beat me to the person, or beat purchasing our preferred vendor, they beat us to him. So we couldn't use him, so we went to the second on our list. So we know that we got the appraisal. We've said many times okay, what is your appraisal? What is your price? And this is not with the present attorneys, the former, they would not reveal their appraisal, but, the second appraisal was done. They spent their money because we spent our money for ours. They spent their money on theirs, and that's when we're going to get together and, okay, let's negotiate. Maybe it is $400,000. Maybe, what can we do to get a settlement? But we were never given that opportunity to do because they wouldn't come forward with what their appraisal was and what their appraisal found. So I know the issue about getting another appraisal or saying the terms, I think that may be difficult. And they had the opportunity to do that. I just wanted to clear on the appraisal that we both got an appraisal at the same time to bring together and negotiate. We brought ours forward on our price, and we didn't get a counter because they wouldn't present their appraisal and what they found out in their appraisal, or offer anything to that fact.
And you're not making a pitch for going for eminent domain. You're just being clear of what you went through to get this as a regular transaction.
Yes.
And that's all we're trying to explain, that's all. So, did you have anything else?
No, and if we could get to a point where we're somewhere where I'd make a higher offer and come to you, for instance, board, I want to make an offer for, but when it's 1.8 million,
right.
that's where I'm about negotiating anymore. I mean, I don't know where after 7 years to go when that's the separation of it. But I'd be willing to hear a fair offer to bring back to you, 4 or 5, whatever the offer is. I can't bring you back 1.8 million. I just can't do it.
Commissioner Kulyas, you've got your light on.
Yeah, and I just want to look at it from the perspective that, this owner could apply for a change in the future land use map designation. However, the city, county, and state all have established coastal high hazard area policies discouraging increases in residential density through future land use map amendments. So there's that word discouraging. And so I'd like to try to get this board to move in a direction, and I don't even know if, we'd have to ask the city attorney, and because we've seen applications come in front of us before asking for land use change, a zoning change prior to a property being bought. That's very similar with what's, we could request here. And I just don't want to miss out on an opportunity where 10 years from now, there's a whole new board up here with mixed use, and possibly you got 50 units going up there because the discouraging wasn't enough by the county or the state, or, and the balancing all went well, according to whatever board may be up here. So hopefully we could offer them a price for its value if it possibly could have that land use change, to move forward with it.
You know, I mean, I feel strongly about what you just said. You do realize this is in the coastal high hazard area, and you do realize everything that we've gone through since 2020 to mitigate development, reduce density in the coastal high hazard area. And now you're saying, let's go back and see if we can do a land use area that's going to increase the density on the property that by right doesn't have that density. I just want to make sure you understand what you're saying.
I mean, Mayor, it's by right is what's balanced up here, and we've seen it time and time again. And so,
All right.
you know, we're just trying to be proactive so we don't see what happens to
Right.
us, you know, and next thing you know, you have a permitted by right over there with
Yeah.
something else. So I don't know if the city attorney, are we allowed to
So-
have appraisers look at properties in that sense?
Yeah, so you should really only be appraising the property under its current land use. You shouldn't be looking at other land uses to appraise it. You know, you don't want to give the inclination that you would be promising this approval, because if it were ever to come before you, you need to make sure that you're looking critically at the evidence that's being presented. What the mayor said about discouraging additional densities and additional residential development in the coastal high hazard area is very, very true. And that's something that you would need to consider very critically about this particular piece of property. Its, you know, proximity to the coast and its vulnerability, and the vulnerability to any potential residents that would live on a piece of property like that. That's probably part of the reason it was originally rezoned to something that was recreational open space, where you couldn't develop more more resident-prone properties there. That's something that you really should consider. I think that, you know, looking at where it is today is more important than what it could be potentially in the future, because there would be a lot of hoops for them to jump through, particularly if they're not going to be meeting what the county requirements are, because it's not just, you know, your future land use map also has to play into what the county-wide map is with respect to density and the ability to develop this property. And if it doesn't meet yours and you pass it, there is also the potential that they could have to go to the county to seek additional amendments if there was an increase in density. And I will tell you right now that Pinellas County is not apt to increase densities in coastal high hazard areas for exactly the reasons that I just kind of discussed, that there is a certain amount of vulnerability there.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kulianis, you have your light on.
Yes. I'm not in any way proposing that we change land use on the property. I agree with you, Mayor, we shouldn't. All I'm saying is that for the point of negotiating with these folks, that if we say, okay, here is the best use value of this property, if it were zoned something else. This is the best use. This is the best you would get even if another board came in and changed the zoning. This is the best you're gonna get. So once you get them to understand that it's not, and that number isn't 1.8 million, that's gonna be a decision they're gonna have to make. Do they wanna sell this property or not? And we're gonna, because if you talk, like our city attorney said, it's a very expensive, long, lengthy process to go through the eminent domain. And then we have to pay all the legal fees that when you eminent domain somebody, not only do you have to pay the city's legal fees, you have to pay their legal fees, and you have to pay all the professionals on both sides. So it gets really expensive, and that could add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in and of itself. So that's all I'm trying to say is, I'm talking about for negotiating, if we said, here's what it's worth at best, here's the best, and maybe they'll understand, this is the best you're gonna get, even if you could sell it in the marketplace. And then we just go from there, rather than pulling the trigger of eminent domain. Let's see if we can negotiate with them in some logical form. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to change the land use
I think
at all.
there's one idea, maybe that to get a better idea on what the value would be, to contact the property appraiser's office and ask them what the property would be if it was zoned R60? I mean, based on whatever their current market analysis would be. They've got the assessed value, they've got the market, and then that just for something as a working number, I guess.
Again, if the resolution is tabled, to have me work on that, I can work on, maybe and me and Mr. Salzman would come up with some kind of figure we thought, and we'd offer it out there. Maybe we'd get a counter offer, and then we bring that counter offer to you, whether it's 4, 5, 6, and, we could do that if that's the direction to table this and go back to the drawing board and try to get a reasonable decision for them. It's been 8 years. I don't mind trying a 9th. So if that's the direction to table this, then go do that. I'll give it a shot.
Didn't I speak?
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I know why you're looking at me.
Didn't we just establish a a comparable property, right, 150 feet away from this property? We just bought all 1.9 acres for $1.8 million, right? So there you go. There's a comp, right? I don't know how this size of property versus what we just bought. So there is some, per square foot value been established very recently, or will be established very, very soon. So there's a comp.
Why doesn't the commission stay out of the determining or giving ideas
I
on per
agree.
square foot?
Let's not threaten eminent domain right now. Let's go and see if we can negotiate from some point of logic with these folks.
Right, so what the city manager is asking for, and you correct me, to table resolution so he could put that to rest, and then he's got direction on what to do from here. Is that correct afterwards?
Yes.
So may I have a motion so we can move on with the meeting to table, I forgot what the resolution number was, Resolution 202338, authorizing eminent domain action. And if you'd like to direct the city manager to continue negotiations with the best information he can come up with based on what the commission.
So moved has been said.
Okay, is there a second?
Second. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any further comments from the commission? We've already gone
yes,
to-
Mayor, I just want
Oh,
to
okay.
thank Commissioner Kulianis for articulating what I was trying to say as the negotiating tool. And, we'll see what happens. And if hopefully things can go right to where this could be, maybe you might be able to see this on the ballot box sometime next year. You never know. If it comes to the residents to decide they made a strong statement towards us, and we'll just go from there.
Right, just don't forget, was it 350, right? The threshold? Don't forget, anything over 350 goes to the residents anyway. So we can pose that question to the residents, and then they're gonna make that decision, as they should, so, okay. Roll call, if there's no further comments.
Oh, I have some more comments.
Vice Mayor
So,
Lamont, please.
we're talking about, the mention of it's going to the property appraiser, and saying, well, if this property was appraised at its
R60 or whatever, yeah.
what value? It's on the property appraiser's site right now. It's comprised of 4 lots. One starts at, and this is the just value, which is what they figure it's worth, $359,000 plus $192,000 plus $192,000 and plus $90,000. So that gives you an idea of what would come back from the Pinellas County Appraiser's Office if it was zoned as it's considered zoned by the Property Appraiser Office.
Okay.
Not considering the future land use map and all that sort of stuff, so. Just
any-
thought I'd bring that up.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. It's past 7:30, so let's go to the ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2023-39, budget resolution. Ms. Kardash, if you could read that resolution by title, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2023-39, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, amending the budget for fiscal year 2022-23. Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, that the following amendments are made to the fiscal year budget for 2022-23.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this item? This is, oh, I'm sorry, we do have a presentation. Okay.
Yeah, Ron Herring, will you go over what this is that you do every year about this time? And you've got another one coming in January. What this is and what it represents briefly.
Yeah, Mayor, Commissioners, Budget Resolution 2023-39 is being brought before you to budget for items that were previously not budgeted for in the fiscal year 2023 budget. That's the previous fiscal year. This will be the last budget resolution for fiscal year 23. I've tried to cover all the items in the cover letter. The one major item, the largest one, is for the Hurricane Idalia expenditures, which the city should get back most of that money from FEMA. And have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, public comments. Are there any public comments on this budget resolution? Mr. Maury, are there any public comments on this budget resolution, remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to talk on this item, please raise your hand to be allowed in. We do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner comments, any questions? None?
I make a motion, we approve Resolution 2023-39, budget resolution for fiscal year 2023.
I'll second.
So there's a motion and a second. No further comments. Roll
Now,
call.
I do have.
Oh, you have a comment?
Yeah, I had a couple, yes. On the first page, Ron, the public safety building, was any of that insurance restored, from the insurance companies?
No, that was all a new redoing of the flooring in the,
Okay, so this had nothing to do with the water damage?
no, it didn't have
Okay.
anything to do with that.
That was question one. Some of these increases, did a lot of it have to do with salary increases?
No, well, the ones related to Hurricane Idalia, that was the overtime. A lot of that was overtime expenses related to that, but no.
Okay. And just as the last one, did FEMA cover all the hurricane costs?
They're going to, yes, they're going to cover most of it, probably, we're hoping for about 100% of it, yes.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, any other
Thank you.
comments, questions? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes, we have an addendum on resolution 2023-43, ratifying and confirming election results. Ms. Kardash.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Resolution 2023-43, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs, Florida, ratifying and confirming the results of the municipal referendum election held on November 7th, 2023, and providing for an effective date hereof.
Okay. City Manager, of course, is you,
City Clerk.
Ms. Jacobs, would you like to explain what the resolution does, please?
The resolution is just certifying the results that was done by the canvassing board from the county.
And this goes to the supervisor of elections.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we do need this to start the closing process on the property.
Okay. Public comments, any public comments on this? This is the referendum results on the purchase of the property, 1.8 acres. Mr. Maury, are there any remote access comments?
If anyone online would like to talk on this item, please raise your hand to be allowed in. We will unmute the next Zoom attendee.
Okay.
Zoom attendee, you are unmuted. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Peter Lalakas, 514 Ashland Avenue. In the backup, I didn't see the actual result numbers. If Ms. Irene Jacobs could, tell us the exact numbers, but from what I saw, it was like 70%. So again, as I mentioned, this allows you to see that the citizens of Tarpon Springs respect this board as far as moving forward on trying to preserve property wherever they can within the Tarpon Springs city limits and maybe just beyond. So I would applaud that the residents have given you a direction, and at this point, it makes sense to go ahead and close on the property. And as I mentioned earlier, just like the city of St. Pete did with the Tropicana Field area, you put out an RFP for requests for proposals. You get people to apply to put out their particular proposals. You bring it forward in a workshop. We get a chance to all, not a workshop where we can't comment, but a special, like somewhere at the old library or maybe at City Hall, but we definitely need to have public input on this, especially from those who will be affected in the Greektown area. So that would be my recommendation, and thank you again for bringing this proposal forward to the citizens and recognizing that we do want to save what we have left of our community. Thank you.
I think the idea is just to close at this point, maybe pick up anything in next year, I guess, with, if whatever the commission, the approach that they want to take. Okay, that was the comments.
To answer the question, it is written into the resolution, 2,346 voted yes, 993 voted no, and the yes votes were just over 70%.
And that was a good turnout. Good results, too. Okay, those were public comments. We did not have a motion and a second yet, and then we'll go to any comments or discussion by the commission.
Motion to approve Resolution 2023-43, ratifying and confirming election results.
Second.
Okay, are there any commission comments or discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes. Let's get back to the, we have an agenda item on the special consent, and that is to request for a shade meeting.
Yes, Mayor, there's another request for a shade meeting in the Trascadeno litigation, and this one is for 2 hours as well. I don't know, City Manager, if you had dates available for that?
Well, again, and I talked to Mr. Salzman today. The difficulty, of course, we had the unfortunate situation of the court reporter and not going. Obviously, we've got issues because this week we've got a commissioner gone. Next week is Thanksgiving week. We got commissioners gone, and we really don't want to wait to talk to Mr. Salzman. So I believe he called Mr. Eisner today to speak to him. To be able to do the item on this Thursday, 5:30, 5:45. I don't think we have any ribbon cuttings or anything, so 5:30, 5:45 this Thursday. And I believe he talked to Mr. Eisner about that. Obviously, the concern was not waiting till the week after Thanksgiving with this thing to be done. So that's the proposed date from Mr. Salzman. Again, just whether the time's 5:30 or 5:45, I don't think there's any ribbon cuttings. I think we
No, it's
checked
been
that.
canceled.
So that's been
we can make it
canceled.
earlier if you
So we can make it early. We could probably make it at 5 or whenever the board could get there. But that's the recommended time to do it if this board approves.
Any thoughts on that as far as Thursday?
Yeah, I have some thoughts. Before we do things like this, aren't we supposed to give the public a certain amount of notice? I mean, we're talking less than 48 hours.
You may be right. Let me look at your charter really quick and see what it says about scheduling meetings. But usually 2 days is
And then,
sufficient
Ms. Jacobs, do you
I
have?
believe it's just 24 hours.
That's what,
for an emergency meeting.
yes.
Okay, as long as we're,
Emergency
not
meeting is
violating
no.
that.
No,
Is less?
Yes.
It's
Okay.
24 hours.
24 hours?
24.
Tomorrow would be a problem, but Thursday's fine.
Okay, I just thought it was 48 hours, so.
Are there any other,
FYI, there's a sustainability committee meeting at 6 o'clock on Thursday.
That won't conflict. That's in the upstairs media room.
All right.
Yours would be in the conference
We're gonna
room.
be in the second floor conference room.
I would prefer we do it as early as we possibly can.
Earlier?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm good 4 o'clock and on.
I'm open, whatever time Commissioner Kulyas, Vice Mayor Lunt, and you're okay, Mr. Eisner, you had that conversation, okay?
Could we do it at like 4 o'clock on Thursday?
That's fine for me. Just preferably not like between 12 and 2 or something.
Yeah.
Either early
Do
in
you-
the day.
Do you have a
or
specific time?
later in the evening.
Commissioner?
4 o'clock.
Commissioner Kulyas saying 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Ms. Kardash, 4 o'clock. Mr. Salzman's okay with 4 o'clock, right?
I hope so. I'm trying to find. We did talk about earlier from the 5:45 or stuff. We didn't get specific, so
Yeah.
I believe that'll be fine, though.
Okay.
I'll try to make sure before the end of the meeting in case we have to go back.
All right, so we have the shade meeting to, Ms. Kardash, if you could just restate everything, and so we can get that as a motion, and then a second.
This would be a request to hold a shade meeting on Thursday, November 16th, at 4 p.m. for 2 hours.
Okay, and the attendees will be as listed except for Commissioner Eisner.
The
will not
exception
be there.
of Commissioner Eisner.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, we didn't have a motion either.
Made the
Is there a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, and the second, okay. If there's no further comments, roll call.
Commissioner Kulianis?
Yes.
Commissioner Kulyas?
Yes.
Commissioner Eisner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lunt?
Yes.
Mayor Vaticius?
Yes, okay. I think that wraps us up. So, we're at board and staff comments. Chief, do you have anything?
Just want to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and remember, it's going to be the busiest traveling holiday ever, they say, so please be careful out there and wear your seatbelts, no drinking and driving, and stay safe.
Did you say drink and drive?
Attorney
No
Kardash,
drinking and driving.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
city manager, of course.
I just think a reminder, I know with the schedule of openings and cuttings and stuff, just remember, after Thanksgiving, we've got a Thursday tree lighting, the 30th at Dorset Park. Obviously on Snow Place the 1st, we have that, and then the sponge dice the next day. So we have 3 consecutive days of our tree lightings, the 30th, the 1st, and the 2nd. Again, the Thursday is the first one at Dorset Park, and I think you're gonna be happy if that tree comes out like it looks. Well, I think you're gonna be happy with the look of that tree at Dorset Park, and the residents already know that that's gonna be an annual, it'll be a three-peat, tree lighting from now to the immediate future, so.
Ms. Jacobs.
I just also wanted to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Commissioner Kulianis.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone, and thanks to Ms. Kardash for hustling up county to come find us.
We don't cover speeding
thank you.
tickets. Okay, thank you.
Speed is amazing.
Commissioner Kulyas.
I just wish all the residents, staff a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and enjoy your time with your family and friends. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Eisner.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and peace on earth. I did also want to just slightly touch base. As you all know, I was at Forward Pinellas, and I just wanted to update you. We were well received. I did speak about 2 items, one being the Tarpon Avenue, having a motion sensor put on Tarpon Avenue in Safford, because I'm sure there isn't a person that hasn't seen a bicyclist going 30 miles an hour right through. So rather, the residential people don't actually, they stop, they push the button, they wait, and they, but the professionals just fly through there. And I don't know how they haven't gotten hit yet, but so my recommendation to them was to put a motion sensor so that as this is approaching, as they're approaching at 30 miles an hour, it will turn a light on prior. and they were pretty receptive. They have used that in other areas, and it's worked out. And in some areas where it's heavy traffic, the light's constantly flashing and everybody ignores it. So I think for us at Safford and Tarpon, it would be good. The other item I spoke about also was putting solar lights at bus stops. There is 8,000 bus stops in Pinellas County, but I asked at least to get started and start putting them someplace. And again, they did respond with, they will be looking into it and putting money aside for that. And they also did touch base with, I didn't know that they were pretty much involved in the Beckett Bridge.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, safe holidays. Want y'all to stay safe. I'm glad it's starting to rain a little bit. We could use a lot more. I'm not quite sure what bridge you were talking about, but
Beckett.
I assumed Beckett. I was just realized today as I was looking back through my records that the first community meeting we had on Beckett Bridge was in February, almost 10 years ago. So it's like this project has been pushed for a long time. I'll be glad to see it pick up.
I had a couple of things. One, with Ford Pinellas, and the importance of somebody from the city being there is I can't, I can't impress upon the need for that, because we do have projects down there that are working through the approval. There is some additional work that they're doing on Distant Avenue with a pedestrian corridor, and so it's really important when those things come up that somebody's there. I know our Ally's usually down there at least the ones I was down there, she was there answering questions for the Ford Pinellas. So we are gonna have a seat, and it's good to monitor, thank you, it's good to monitor our activities there. Secondly, with regard to real estate, we still need to kind of, given what we're going through right now with the spoil site, we still need to find a real estate advisor, I guess, consultant. Is that,
Yes.
you're still working on that,
Yes.
right? And
Just for information, there was no bids when we put out the bids, so Janina's working on trying an alternative.
I'm sorry, there's no bids on what?
The real estate consultant.
for the disposal site, then there's also the Project Refuge with the Shepherd Center that's part of that. So it's kind of something that we've made certain promises to help. The commission has, not me, the commission has, with Project Refuge and move forward with that. And I know the Shepherd Center's looking at some other options as well with that project, but I really think we need to move on with it. Just not to buy anything right now, but just to identify what might be available so we can discuss it and what the prices are gonna be. The other thing is I want to wish everybody a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. Our next meeting is going to be December 9th. And then the week after that, for our second meeting of that month, December 16th. And then we're done until January 9th. That'd be after Epiphany.
Mayor,
So, yes.
December 5th.
December 5th, is that what I said?
You said 9th, I believe.
December 5th and December 12th.
Because 9th,
December 5th and
I'll be in
December.
Australia.
Right, December 5th and December 12th are our commission meetings. And then our next meeting would be January 9th, after Epiphany. Okay. Thank you. We'll see everybody here at 4 o'clock Thursday, upstairs.
And just
Meeting adjourned at 8:18.
one more thing for the sign down here.
Pardon me?
Are you wiggling your fingers in front of me?
Someone called, complaining.